We start with our Newsmaker segment and take a look at Missouri politics. Our guest is a former state representative who resigned shortly before his term expired. To talk about why and much more is Clay County Republican Kevin Corlew, an attorney with Shook, Hardy & Bacon. Mr. Corlew, welcome to Ruckus. Good to have you in.
Glad to be here, Mike. Thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Talk a bit about your experience in the state legislature. When were you elected? How long did you serve?
I was elected in 2014, served 4 years. I was grateful for the experience, honored to represent the people of Kansas City Northland in the legislature. Really honored to be there and be involved in some strategic policy making at the time.
It has been reported that you left the legislature before your term actually expired because of the Clean Missouri Amendment, which said people serving in the legislature could not work as lobbyists for 2 years. I read, however, your quote where you said that's not the case at all. That's not why you left early.
Well, Mike, I'm an attorney and I represent clients and I advocate for them in court and in other places to make sure that we work and advocate for their needs. The Clean Missouri plan on their 2-year cooling off period for legislatures is very undefined. It's very broad and just says you cannot advocate or be a lobbyist before any governmental entity. I think there's some problems with that, and that's ripe for challenge in court. In contrast to that, the legislature a couple years ago put into place a 6-month cooling off period, and it was directed towards the General Assembly. So if someone like me as a legislator gets out of the legislature, I can't go back and lobby my colleagues for the next session, which makes sense. But to just say any governmental entity puts at risk someone like me who might represent my clients before an administrative agency, before a zoning board, or something of that effect. And so I thought with 3 weeks left and not in session, that it would be prudent for me to be able to make sure that we don't cross some line unintentionally.
Does it make some sense to have a period of time between when someone leaves the legislature and when that person can lobby?
I think it does. I mean, I think there's some ethics issues that are important there. However, it has to be narrowly tailored. It must be a short window. It must be directed towards where you think the conflict would occur. A conflict may be between a legislator lobbying the legislature, but to put at risk somebody representing a client in front of a zoning board doesn't make any sense, and the length has to be narrowly tailored, like any non-compete agreement, which this is essentially what it is.
Do lobbyists perform a worthwhile function in the Missouri legislature?
You know, I think lobbyists...
And they get a bad rap a lot of the time.
Lobbyists do get a bad rap. However, I think what's more important is to look at the special interest behind them and driving them. But the lobbyist in himself or herself is simply an advocate for somebody to like in court, or it's an advocate in the legislature to try to advance policies that are important to them. But the position in and of itself is not evil.
The Clean Missouri Amendment calls for a nonpartisan demographer to redraw the state legislative districts after the 2020 census. Is there such a thing as a nonpartisan demographer?
You know, I think there's some real problems with that, and again, that's another aspect that might be challenged in court. But the problems with that is when somebody says we want equal districts, we want 50 districts of Republican and Democrat, that might sound good in principle. In fact, for me, who was a Republican serving in a district that only had 45% Republicans, that might sound good for me. But however, when you begin to look at what that really means, that you take an inner city district that might be 90% Democrat, or a rural district that might be 90% Republican, and to draw a 50-50 district, you have to have these very odd-shaped districts where you take an inner city district and draw it out to Sedalia, for instance. I don't think that we really realize what the impact of that is going to be.
Do you think this is just a Democratic plan to cut Republican control of the state?
Well, and I think so, perhaps, but it's short-sighted because, you know, if we look at the history of things, the pendulum swings from Republican to Democrat, and to try to make a system to fit your needs in the immediate is short-sighted and not worthwhile doing.
Might you run again for some office?
Perhaps, Mike. At this time, I'm going to take some time. I've got 3 kids at home. I'm going to invest in them. I'm going to work in the private sector, and I'm going to work in the civic civic arena to try to bring some of the things that I worked on in the legislature, for instance, transportation, to try to bring the region together to become a world-class transportation and distribution center.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming in. Come back in the future.
Thank you, Mike. I'd be glad to.
All right, great. That is former Missouri State Rep Kevin Corlew. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus.